Praise the Lord, saints.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord. I'm a church baby, just calm down. My name is Cheryl Roberts, and I am now a new author. And my book is called From Victim to Vessel, Pushing Through Pain to Walk in Purpose. And my mission, my ministry, is to help others who have been suffering in silence for so long to unlock their voice of victory and to speak out and heal. I am an incest survivor, and I was abused from the time I was 4 until I was 15. And I grew up with low self-esteem, no confidence, and pretty much hated my very existence. So for most of my life, I was stuck in that victim's mentality. I didn't know basically how to get out. I kind of felt comfortable there. I was kind of complacent there. And so I wanted to give you 3 quick points of how I went from victim to vessel. And the first thing, I had to acknowledge that there was a problem.
Yes.
Sometimes, we know that it's there, but we don't want to face it. And so we try to hide it and, keep it covered. But when you recognize that there's a problem, that's the first start of a solution. And so you can't heal what you can't confront, or you won't confront. So you have to face it to fix it. And then after that, after acknowledging that, you have to deal with it. And dealing with, being abused and all of the after effects and how it makes you feel, how it has altered your life, it's so hard because it brings up a lot of stuff that you thought you had forgotten. And so there's a process, and a lot of times we get fed up in the process. We don't want to go through that process. And that's one of the primary reasons that many of us are in lack. We live in lack and in defeat. We have yet to become acquainted with the principle of process. But before we can attain the promise, there must be an endurance of the process. It's hard, but it's necessary. And the last thing was the hardest thing for me, and that was forgiveness.
Forgiveness, yes.
Being abused for so long and having them taking what you thought was so precious, that's kind of hard to forgive. And I had gone through the counseling and started talking about it, and I was grown once, I was dealing with it. And I'm like, God, I don't think I can do that. I'm not going to do that. He hurt me, and I wanted them to hurt as much as they hurt me. And thinking that with holding all that anger and that hatred and that rage was hurting them, but it was killing me. And so I knew I couldn't forgive on my own, so I began to pray for a desire to forgive. And it did not come overnight, because in my humanness, I wanted to hold on. And so, but once that forgiveness came, the freedom, I saw, myself in a whole different, like the blinders were taken off. And I began to see the woman God had created. I was strong. I was of worth. I was beautiful. Because I didn't feel like I was before then. I didn't feel like people loved me. I didn't feel like, I was worth being loved. So, but after I had dealt with my pain and forgave, I'm a brand new person. I'm walking in liberty. I'm walking in my purpose. And my purpose is to be that voice for those who are still suffering. And God gave me a vision in my healing process for my organization, Life of Hope After Abuse, where we raise awareness for child sexual abuse. And we also help those who are wanting to go to counseling. Because, y'all know Black people, we don't go to counseling. Because when someone you know, told me I should go. I was like, black people don't go to counseling. What you talking about? You serious? But, you know, I'm thinking, okay, so we have doctors for the physical and there are doctors for the mental. So why can't we use those? God, you know? So, you know, once I began to go to counseling, it was one of the major things that helped me get through my pain. So, you know, we help those who are willing and want, who desire to go to counseling, go to counseling. And so, you know, if you ever need help or anything or know anybody, come talk to me. Amen.
Hallelujah. Does anybody have any questions for Cheryl?
Don't be scared.
I've endured abuse as well. And do you think that it's possible that you can see the world without reference to that pain or that past ever? Because I'm still not, I'm processing things.
Did everybody hear that question? That was a good question. Everybody heard it? No? And you specifically said, how do you see the world through that pain without seeing, without reference to what happened to you? How do you see the world basically in a better place, in a good vision, a good light, to actually be happy after you've gone through something like that?
Absolutely. But it takes a relationship with Christ. My relationship with him grew in my healing process because at that time I wasn't seeking him like I should have been, and I wasn't giving it over to him. But once I did, all of that, I mean, every hurt, every pain, even the control left, the hatred for my abusers left. And so now my mind is free to love. My mind is free to be who God created me to be. And I don't, you know, and because of what I do and because of the people that come to me that I talk to on a regular basis because of their hurt, it brings up different things. But as far as me being, I guess, stuck back where I was, I'm no longer there.
Yeah. I have a question. Panelist, why do you have a question?
You're so serious.
And talking about forgiveness, because being someone that has suffered something similar, when you talk about forgiving the other person, I found there's only one step to forgiveness. How do you work through forgiving you?
Yeah, that's it.
Because that, to me, that over the years, that's been my struggle. Once I forgive me, then situations like she said, when you're looking at the world or something happens, you replay that all over again, and all of those hurtful words make you feel like you're the victim. So how do you daily process, how do you forgive you in order to move on?
Actually, that was the first person I forgave, was me. And that was one hard thing because I always felt like it was my fault. I had done something for them to do what they did to me. And so I grieved. It took some years for me to grieve for that little girl. But I finally let that go. I had to begin to love that little girl. And a lot of times when I was grieving, I cried a lot. And when I say I cried a lot, there were days I couldn't go to work. I'm grown. I'm 28, 30 years old, but yet I was grieving for that little girl. And it had me kind of bound to where I reverted back. But yet, once I began to learn how to love that little girl, it took the grace of God to wrap his arms around me and to tell me that he loves me. And I had to begin to believe that. And so once that happened, you know, I was able to see, you know, that little girl It wasn't your fault. You didn't have anything to do with what they did to you. And so, you know, eventually, once you let that pain of that part go, I'm not gonna say it's easier to forgive the abusers, but you know, it's not as